Welcome to your deep dive. Today we'll be taking a look at Dynamic Public School in Nepal.
Dynamic public school.
Yeah, they've got this really cool motto, education is for life, not just for exams, and they seem to really live by it, like actually live by it.
Wow. How so?
Well, just imagine a school where you're learning practical life skills right alongside your academics.
Okay.
Think hairdressing, plumbing,
Oh, wow.
even agriculture,
Really?
all while you're like mastering your textbooks too.
So they're getting like a really well-rounded education then.
It seems like it, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we've got a whole stack of info on DPS, from their admissions process to their approach to e-learning.
Okay.
So let's explore what makes them so dynamic. Right?
Yeah, let's dive in.
What really stood out to me initially was this whole idea of a one-time registration.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
You register once, and you're basically a part of the DPS community for life.
For life. Wow.
It really emphasizes that education is a journey, not a destination.
It does make you wonder about the implications, though, right?
Oh, totally.
Like, how do they manage limited seats with a system like that?
That's a great question. It seems like they handle that with a combination of careful planning and a selective application process. You either book an appointment by phone or apply online.
Okay, so they still have some control over the intake.
Right, and I'm sure they have some kind of criteria to manage, this influx of lifelong learners. But here's what I find really interesting. Even though you're technically registered for life, they haven't abandoned assessments altogether.
Oh, so they still have tests and evaluations.
They do. They have what they call a continuous assessment system.
Okay.
And it sounds like a more holistic way of evaluating progress, rather than just relying on high-stakes exams.
Instead of like one big test at the end.
Exactly. Instead of cramming for one big test, students are constantly engaged in unit evaluations, midterms, and finals.
So they're consistently being assessed.
Yeah, which could reduce stress and promote, consistent learning.
Right, it spreads it out more.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see some data on how their system compares to traditional testing methods.
Yeah. In terms of student performance, overall well-being.
Yeah.
But this focus on continuous learning ties in really well with their learning by doing philosophy.
Right, like we talked about earlier.
Instead of just reading about computers, students at DPS are actually given computers to use and explore.
They just get a computer.
It seems like it.
That's amazing.
Very cool, right?
Yeah. What about other subjects? Is it the same approach?
It seems like it. It's a very hands-on approach, almost like an apprenticeship model applied to academics.
Oh.
They even extend it to, learning about plants and agriculture.
So instead of just reading about it in the textbook.
They're actually out there growing crops and tending fields.
Wow, that's incredible.
It makes you wonder, could this hands-on approach actually lead to a deeper understanding?
Yeah.
And better retention of information compared to traditional classroom learning.
It'd be interesting to see a study on that.
Right. And they don't stop there. They take this approach beyond the core academics and into a whole range of extracurricular activities.
Yeah, the hairdressing and plumbing we mentioned.
Exactly.
There's more too.
Right. They've got tailoring, wall painting, even basic makeup training.
That's a lot.
It's like they're saying, hey, life is full of surprises, so let's prepare you for anything.
Really makes you think outside the box of what a school should be focused on.
Yeah.
I do wonder, though, how do they ensure quality and depth in each area with such a vast array of activities?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all these amazing activities, but it's important to consider the potential downsides, too. Is there a risk of spreading resources too thin and ending up with, a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none situation?
Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely have to dig deeper into how they structure their programs, allocate resources, and make sure they're providing a meaningful experience for every student.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's talk about their e-learning platform.
Right. Even though they're big on hands-on learning, they still recognize the value of technology. They've got this really sophisticated learning management system, or LMS.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this LMS. What makes it so special?
Well, every lesson on the platform has a corresponding video. Students can access it through the DPS online portal.
So they can watch videos of the lessons.
Yeah. And get this. They've meticulously designed their textbooks, handouts, quizzes, even tests to align with these video lessons.
So it all connects.
It creates this seamless connection between the online and offline components of their curriculum.
So it's not just about supplementing in-person learning with online resources.
Right. It's more integrated than that.
It's about like weaving technology into the very fabric of their educational approach.
Exactly.
But what about those moments when students need a bit of extra help?
Like one-on-one help.
Yeah, can they connect with teachers online for personalized support?
Absolutely. Subject teachers are available for one-on-one guidance through Zoom upon request.
So they can just reach out and get some help.
Yep.
That's fantastic. So whether a student is struggling with a specific concept or just needs like a little bit of clarification.
They can get personalized attention from their teachers, even outside the classroom.
It sounds like they've really thought through how to make e-learning engaging, effective, and accessible to all their students. But it does make you wonder, how do they balance this high-tech approach with their emphasis on hands-on experiential learning?
Yeah, how do those two things work together?
Is it a seamless blend, or are there like some inherent tensions between these two seemingly contrasting philosophies?
That's a great question, and one we'll have to explore further.
Mm-hmm.
As we delve deeper into the inner workings of dynamic public school,
Yeah,
it's this intriguing mix of tradition and innovation that makes them so fascinating.
totally. But before we get lost in the details of their programs and technology, let's take a moment to consider the people behind it all. The driving force behind this unique vision.
The leadership.
Yeah, the leadership.
Okay.
Let's start with the principal, Andy Lama.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've gathered, he seems to be deeply passionate about unlocking the potential within each student.
Okay.
He believes every child has unique talents just waiting to be discovered and nurtured.
That's a great philosophy.
It's refreshing to hear a principal talk about education in such a personalized way. It's not just about churning out graduates who can pass standardized tests.
Right.
It's about empowering individuals to reach their full potential.
Whatever that may be.
Exactly. But what about the bigger picture? Does Mr. Lama's vision kind of extend beyond the individual student to encompass like a broader societal impact?
Absolutely. He's not just focused on individual success. He wants to build a great and prosperous nation.
Through education.
Through education, yeah. He sees DPS graduates as future leaders and change makers, equipped with the skills and values to make a positive difference in the world.
That's inspiring.
And it's not just him who thinks this way. We have parent testimonials, too, that highlight how DPS students thrive academically and mature in this really positive, supportive environment.
It's wonderful to hear that the school's vision is translating into such positive experiences for both students and their families.
Yeah.
It sounds like a truly collaborative effort, with everyone working together towards a common goal.
It really does. And it's not just the principal who holds this vision. The chairman of DPS, Roshan Katiwada, shares this commitment to nurturing skillful personalities with ethical character. He believes education should go beyond just imparting knowledge.
It's about more than that.
Yeah, it's about building well-rounded individuals who can contribute to the betterment of society.
So it's not just about academic excellence. It's about character development, social responsibility. It's about equipping students with the tools they need to be not just successful individuals, but engaged citizens.
Exactly.
Who make a positive impact on their communities.
Yeah. And this focus on ethical character seems to be woven into the very fabric of DPS's approach. From their emphasis on collaborative learning to their commitment to community service projects.
It's inspiring to see a school that takes such a holistic approach to education, recognizing that true success encompasses more than just academic achievements.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the practical side of things? How does the leadership at DPS translate this grand vision into tangible action?
Yeah.
How do they ensure that this philosophy is reflected in the day-to-day operations of the school?
That's a key question, and one we'll need to explore further as we delve deeper into the specifics of their curriculum, teaching methods, and overall school culture. But for now, it's clear that the leadership team at DPS is committed to creating an educational experience that goes beyond just preparing students for exams.
They're preparing them for life.
They're preparing them for life.
And that's what makes dynamic public school so intriguing, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about what they teach, it's about why they teach it. It's about fostering a love of learning, nurturing individual potential, and empowering students to make a positive difference in the world.
And that's a vision worth exploring.
Absolutely.
I'm eager to learn more about how they're putting this vision into practice and what lessons we can all learn.
Me too. So stick with us as we continue our deep dive into the world of dynamic public school.
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, so let's jump back into dynamic public school.
Okay.
We've talked about their philosophy, the leadership.
Right.
But now I'm really curious to see how all those big ideas translate into actual classroom practice.
Yeah. How does it actually work in the classroom?
Exactly.
Well, from what I've gathered, visual learning seems to be a key part of their teaching methodology.
Visual learning. So it's not just the hands-on activities, but also about like presenting information in a way that engages students visually.
Exactly. They incorporate a lot of visual aids into their curriculum, like diagrams, videos, real-life demonstrations.
So they can actually see it.
Yeah, basically anything that helps students see and experience the concepts.
Mm.
And it's not just arts and crafts, it's integrated into all subjects.
Oh, wow.
Math, science, language, history.
I can see how that would be beneficial, you know?
Yeah.
It's one thing to read about like a scientific principle in a textbook,
Right.
but it's quite another to actually see it in action.
Definitely.
It probably helps students grasp the concepts more easily and retain the information longer.
It's likely. The research on visual learning suggests it can be a powerful tool
Yeah.
for enhancing comprehension and memory.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to see if DPS has done any internal studies,
Yeah.
to measure the effectiveness of this approach.
That would be cool to see.
Yeah.
But for now, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about their academic approach,
All right.
but one of the things that really stood out to me about DPS was their extracurricular activities.
Oh, yeah, that list was pretty impressive.
Remember we were going through it earlier. Plumbing, hairdressing, tailoring,
Wall painting.
wall painting, agriculture. It was a lot.
It was quite extensive.
Mhm.
And it's not just a random assortment of activities either.
Oh,
They're categorized in a way that highlights their purpose
okay.
and their connection to DPS's overall philosophy.
I see.
So, for example, under life skills,
Yeah.
you have those practical hands-on activities.
Like cooking and plumbing.
Cooking, plumbing, hairdressing,
Right.
even wall painting and agriculture.
It's like they're preparing students for a whole range of real-world scenarios.
Exactly.
From fixing a leaky faucet to growing their own food.
It really goes beyond the traditional scope of extracurriculars.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then you have categories like young musicians and sports,
Okay.
which focus on nurturing creativity, physical well-being, and teamwork.
All essential skills.
All essential skills for success in life.
Yeah, no matter what you end up doing.
Exactly, regardless of your career path.
It's a very well-rounded approach.
It is.
They're not just focusing on academics or vocational skills.
Right.
They're nurturing the whole child.
The whole child.
Their mind, their body, their creative spirit.
Exactly. And even within those broader categories,
Yeah.
they offer a surprising level of depth and specialization.
Oh, wow.
For instance, under sketching, pen art, and painting,
Okay.
they emphasize that students will explore their creativity
Through art.
through art and design, developing their own unique style and vision.
So it's not just about keeping kids busy after school.
no.
It's about providing them with opportunities
Yes.
for self-expression, skill development, personal growth.
And they even tie in those practical skills,
Like-
like typing.
Oh, yeah.
They emphasize that students will be able to type fluently in both English and Nepali
By the time they graduate.
by the time they graduate.
Wow. It's all interconnected, isn't it?
It is
Each element reinforcing the other.
creating this holistic educational experience.
That goes beyond just the traditional classroom setting. Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about their e-learning program.
All right.
We touched on it earlier, mentioning their sophisticated learning management system,
The LMS.
the LMS, but I'd love to hear more about how it actually works, what makes it so unique.
It's definitely worth exploring further. As you mentioned, their e-learning program goes beyond just providing online classes.
Okay.
It's deeply integrated with their overall curriculum
Mm-hmm.
and teaching methodology, for starters. Every lesson has a corresponding video
A video.
that students can access through the DPS online portal.
Oh, cool.
And they've designed their textbooks, handouts, quizzes, even tests to match these video lessons.
Wow, so it all ties together.
It creates this seamless blend of online and offline learning.
So it's not just about supplementing in-person instruction with digital resources.
Right.
It's about creating a cohesive learning experience.
Where technology enhances and extends the classroom experience.
That's pretty innovative.
It is. And they haven't neglected the importance of personalized support either.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Subject teachers are available for individual guidance
Okay.
through Zoom upon request.
So even if a student is learning remotely,
Right.
they can still get that one-on-one attention from their teacher.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. It sounds like they've really struck a balance.
Between leveraging technology,
And maintaining that human connection.
that's so crucial
Yeah.
to effective learning.
For sure. And to further personalize the learning experience, they also offer a flexible scheduling option.
Oh, how does that work?
Students can choose to attend physical classes on alternative days.
So they can kind of create their own blend of online and in-person learning.
Exactly. It's like they've taken all the best aspects of traditional and modern education
Yeah,
and woven them together into this truly customized learning experience.
that's pretty cool.
It is cool, but with all this flexibility and choice, I can't help but wonder about the potential challenges, you know?
Yeah.
How do they ensure consistency across programs and maintain a high standard of quality?
Especially when students are learning in such diverse ways.
Exactly.
It would be interesting to learn more about their quality control mechanisms,
Yeah.
and how they ensure that every student is receiving a meaningful and an enriching education, regardless of their chosen learning path.
I agree. And what about the teachers?
The teachers.
They must play a crucial role in navigating this blend of traditional and technological approaches.
Definitely.
How do they train and support their teachers to effectively implement this dynamic learning model?
That's a key piece of the puzzle for sure, and one we'll have to explore further. But before we get too deep into the operational side of things,
Yeah.
let's take a step back
Okay.
and consider the larger implications.
Of what DPS is doing.
Exactly. They're not just creating a better school.
Right.
They're challenging the very notion of what education should be
Mm-hmm.
and how it should prepare students for the future.
You're right. It's a bold experiment, and it's raising some important questions about the role of education in the 21st century, you know?
Like, what skills will students need to thrive?
Exactly. How can we best prepare them for the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead?
And perhaps even more importantly, what does it even mean to be educated in the digital age?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it about memorizing facts and figures?
Or is it about developing, like, critical thinking,
Yeah,
problem solving, and adaptability?
exactly.
Those are big questions, and ones that DPS seems to be grappling with in a very real and practical way. They're
Correct.
not just talking about 21st century skills.
Right.
They're actively cultivating them in their students.
Through their hands-on approach.
Yeah, through their hands-on experiential learning approach, their focus on technology integration,
Mm.
and their commitment to nurturing the whole child.
It's an inspiring model,
Mm-hmm.
and one that has the potential to transform education far beyond the walls of their school.
Totally agree. But with all this talk about innovation and pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
do you ever worry that they might be losing sight of the fundamentals?
A fundamental.
Is there a risk that in their quest to be dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
they might be neglecting the core academic skills
Oh, that students need.
that students need to succeed?
That's a valid concern, and one we should definitely keep in mind
Yeah,
as we continue our exploration.
for sure.
It's important to strike a balance
Between
innovation and tradition,
right.
between preparing students for the future
Mm-hmm.
and ensuring they have a solid foundation in the basics
Yeah, perhaps we can delve into that a bit more.
as we examine their curriculum.
Yes, I'm eager to see how they've structured their programs to ensure that students are receiving a well-rounded education, you know,
Yeah,
that encompasses both the fundamentals and the cutting-edge skills
absolutely.
that they'll need to thrive in the 21st century.
I'm with you on that. Let's dig deeper and see how dynamic public school is bridging that gap between tradition and innovation.
Let's do it. But before we get lost in the details of their curriculum, I think it's important to hear from the people who are most directly impacted by this unique approach to education.
The students?
The students themselves.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about what DPS is trying to achieve, but I'd love to hear from the students.
About what it's actually like.
Yeah, what's it actually like to learn in this type of environment?
Mm.
What are they excited about? What are they struggling with?
Yeah.
What are they learning that they wouldn't be learning in a more traditional school setting?
That's a great idea. Hearing
Mhm.
directly from the students would give us such valuable insights
Right.
into the real-world impact of DPS's approach
Exactly. It would help us move beyond the theoretical
and get a sense of how these practices are shaping the lives.
and perspectives of the learners.
We'll have to see if we can track down some student testimonials
Yeah.
or maybe even interview a few students directly.
Their voices are essential to this story.
Exactly. Their perspectives would be invaluable in understanding the true essence of dynamic public school.
I agree.
Well, it looks like we've got our work cut out for us.
Mm-hmm. But I'm excited to dig deeper, uncover more about this fascinating school and its impact on the students, the community, and the future of education.
I'm with you. There's so much more to explore.
Let's dive back in and see what other gems we can uncover about dynamic public school.
Let's do it.
So we've covered a lot of ground with Dynamic Public School, their unique approach to learning, their tech integration, even their incredibly diverse extracurriculars.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I think it's time to step back and kind of ask ourselves, why does this all matter?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? What's the larger significance of this model?
Right. Is this just a fascinating outlier? Or could this offer insights into the future of education more broadly?
It makes you think.
It does, because if DPS is really onto something here with their education for life philosophy
Right.
and their focus on holistic development, then it has implications far beyond just their school.
Yeah, for sure. If we zoom out and look at things globally, we're seeing a growing disconnect between what traditional education systems are doing and what the modern world actually demands.
Right. We're hearing more and more about this skills gap,
Exactly.
where employers are struggling to find graduates who are not just academically qualified,
Right.
but also adaptable, creative, and possess those practical problem-solving skills.
Exactly. It's not even just about job readiness. It's about preparing young people to navigate a rapidly changing world, to be critical thinkers, innovative problem solvers, engaged citizens.
And that's where Dynamic Public Schools model becomes so intriguing.
Yeah.
They're not just talking about these 21st century skills, they're actively cultivating them
In their students.
in their students through this hands-on experiential learning environment.
It seems like their approach really addresses this disconnect head on,
Mhm.
Instead of just focusing on standardized tests and rote memorization,
Right.
they're giving students opportunities to actually apply their knowledge.
In real-world context.
Yes, in real-world contexts, develop practical skills, and build a portfolio of experiences that goes beyond the traditional achievements,
So it's not just about prepping them for exams, it's about preparing them for life.
as their motto suggests.
Exactly. And that has implications not just for individual success, but for the well-being of entire communities and societies.
Absolutely. Imagine if we could cultivate a generation of individuals
Yeah.
who are adaptable, resilient, and equipped with a diverse set of skills, both practical and academic.
It's like planting seeds
Yeah.
that could blossom into a more vibrant and sustainable future for everyone.
Precisely. And that's why Dynamic Public Schools model is so thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
It challenges us to rethink the very purpose of education.
To move beyond those narrow definitions of success.
Yes, and embrace a more holistic vision.
So it's not just about creating a better school, it's about contributing to a better world.
Right. It's about recognizing that education has the power to shape not just individual lives,
Yeah.
but the trajectory of entire societies.
Exactly. And that brings us back to your initial question.
Why does this all matter?
Why does this all matter? It matters because Dynamic Public School is showing that another way is possible.
They're proving it can be done.
Yes, they're showing us that we can break free from the limitations of traditional education models
Can create something new.
and create learning experiences that are engaging, relevant, and empowering.
It's a powerful message.
It is. So if traditional schools are primarily focused on preparing for exams, what would it look like if more schools adopted DPS's education for life philosophy?
What kind of transformation would we see?
Yeah. What kind of transformation would we see in the educational landscape?
Well, for starters, we might see a shift in the physical spaces of learning.
Like the classroom.
Classrooms, yeah, they could become more dynamic and interactive, incorporating elements of workshops, studios, maybe even some outdoor learning environments.
Oh, that would be cool.
Right. And instead of passive learning, where students are just absorbing information.
From textbooks and lectures.
Exactly. We might see a greater emphasis on active learning, project-based learning,
Hands-on.
hands-on, collaborative problem solving.
So students would be active participants in the learning process.
Yes, engaging with real-world challenges, developing solutions that have a tangible impact on their communities.
And maybe, just maybe, we'd start to see a shift in how we measure success.
Oh, interesting.
It wouldn't just be about grades and standardized test scores anymore.
It would be about the whole person.
Yeah, it would be about the development of well-rounded individuals, who are prepared to contribute to the betterment of society.
It's a compelling vision.
It really is. And while Dynamic Public School might be a unique case study,
Yeah.
their approach offers valuable lessons for anyone who cares about the future of education.
For sure.
It's a reminder that we have the power to reimagine what's possible.
And to create learning environments.
Yes, learning environments that empower students to not just succeed in the world, but to shape it for the better.
Well said.
So for anyone listening who's feeling inspired by what they've heard today, I encourage you to visit the DPS website.
Yeah, check it out.
Learn more about their programs, their vision. Maybe you'll find some ideas that you can adapt and implement in your own communities.
Whether you're a parent, an educator, or just a concerned citizen.
Exactly, because ultimately transforming education is a collective effort.
It takes all of us.
Yeah, it requires us to challenge assumptions, embrace innovation, and work together to create those learning experiences that are relevant, engaging, and empowering for all learners.
Absolutely. So let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts, ask questions, and let's continue to explore how we can all contribute to building a more dynamic and equitable educational landscape.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of dynamic public school.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep challenging the status quo.